Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Rebecca Babcock on the line, and she's founder of Rebecca Babcock Coaching. Rebecca, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
All right, so I'm excited to have you on the line today and to learn more about the Babcock Method and really how you're helping busy professionals. But before we get into that, we'll start this episode the way that we start them all with our Mission Matters Minute. So, Rebecca, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Rebecca, what mission matters to you?
Well, I have to say I started this coaching company for one very clear reason, or a few of them, but it was to live my life no matter how lifey it gets. I have had a bunch of insane life things happen to me. I had my entire colon removed in an emergency surgery. I had 5 surgeries over 2.5 years to rebuild my entire digestive tract. I was married and divorced by the time I was 31. I've been hired and fired. I've had all sorts of health things. And at the point of saying, what's it all for? What's the point of all this? And to not wait until something terrible or dramatic happens, but to really live your life to the best of your ability right now. And the mantra that I use for myself is no colon, still rolling. And while that's very literal for not having a colon, what it means is that it's my brand. It's my approach to life. It's whatever life happens, life gets lifey. How are you going to show up? How are you going to live your life? How are you going to handle the things that happen so that you can enjoy your life now and live it to the best and biggest that it can be?
Wow, what an amazing story. And this is one of the things that, just get me excited and fired up to really do this show every day is getting to speak to entrepreneurs like yourself who they've maybe had a challenge or they've had a perceived challenge or something else, and they choose to use it and use their life story as they've been blessed. So now be a blessing and figure out how to help others and how to help them, on their journey as well. And we all get better that way. So awesome having you on. How did this all start for you being an entrepreneur? Like, where did that start for your journey?
It certainly didn't start with being an entrepreneur, I can tell you that. I came at this kicking and screaming, to be honest.
That's awesome.
Right?
Many of the guests, you're in good company. I call myself an accidentalpreneur. I didn't plan on being an entrepreneur. Go ahead, please.
My mission, my personal mission in life forced me to become an entrepreneur is basically what happened. So, no, I'm a 21-year corporate exec veteran. And so I graduated magna cum laude from Vanderbilt University and was like, watch out world, here I come. And then I went on 42 interviews before I ever got my first job. So that happened. And I worked for about 15 years in magazine publishing on the sales and publishing side. I worked mostly in marketing, so I was at Vogue, and I was at Vogue when Sex and the City came out, right? It was that kind of energy and a vibe. I was in Manhattan at Vogue, all those things. Wow. And then I went from there to GQ. I went to a magazine that's not around anymore called Lucky. I left Condé Nast for a little while and went to a few other places, came back, and I was at Glamour as a senior director of integrated marketing. Then I left that my first career transition was, then I left and went to eBay where I did business development. While I was there, I had those 5 surgeries, those aforementioned surgeries. And when I survived all those surgeries, I went looking for an entrepreneur who had already figured out how to align my passion and my purpose and the things that I really felt were my callings in life with a way to actually make money. I got divorced when I was 31, and I have a chronic autoimmune disease. So, I needed a corporate job, thank you very much. I needed health insurance, and I wanted to do something that I loved, but I also needed to be very mindful of money and be realistic. I lived in Manhattan. And so I went out looking for somebody that didn't just do like your LinkedIn profile and your resume, but also looked at your life holistically, looked at your relationships, your health, your finances, your, purpose and mission in life, and worked holistically to help you discover the right thing for you. Apparently, that's how you become an entrepreneur. because I couldn't find it. So I tried to figure it out for myself, and I ended up going and taking a job as director of partnerships for an ad tech company. And it wasn't the right fit, quite frankly, for me or for them. But I mean, they were the ones during COVID to sort of cry uncle and say, you don't love widgets on a page. And I was like, yeah, no, I really don't. But I love managing and mentoring and working with people. And I'm competitive. I love the sales part of it. Love making money. And that's when I had to finally pay attention and say, if not now, when? And so I went back to my undergrad degree is in human and organizational development. So I went and did a 9-month certification because it ends up just having opinions does not make you a coach. It makes you an opinionated friend. So I went back and took a 9-month certification to become a internationally certified, recognized coach, and started Rebecca Babcock Coaching. And the rest is history.
Mm-hmm. This is a great story, and one of the things that I kind of like about it is that, you know, many people have kind of had these types of ups and downs and sideways and in between. So everybody has their story, but the difference here, in my opinion, or one of the big difference makers, is that, you know, in your perseverance, you're like, you know what, let me figure this out, and then you ended up ultimately going the entrepreneurship route and saying, hey, I'm going to do this. For those, there's some people, and the reason why I kind of tee that up is there's some people out there right now that are kind of in that in-between stage and considering whether they should be an entrepreneur or whether they should continue looking for something else, or what they're kind of in that in-between stage as well. What kind of things would you tell to others that are maybe out there, you know, looking for a way to maybe find their place in either entrepreneurship or otherwise? What kind of things would you tell them?
So here's one of the biggest pieces of advice that I give everybody. Let me clear my throat, make sure this is very clear. Do not quit your job. Now, that sounds crazy coming from a coach who specializes in building a fulfilling career and a purposeful life. Let me get very clear. Do not quit your job right now today. Keep getting that health insurance. Keep getting that paycheck, because it's one thing to know what you're running from, what you don't like in your job. And maybe you think, if I start my own company, I'll be my own boss. Okay, well, any entrepreneur will tell you that's the worst boss I've ever had is myself. But you know, not only what are you running from, right? It's the commute, it's the boss, it's the workload, it's the industry. You need to be just as clear about what you're running towards. What is it that's going to be different if you're an entrepreneur? What is it that you actually want? If you can't say in an elevator pitch, I'm leaving this job because instead for me it was, I'm leaving corporate sales because instead I'm going to become a coach, and that's aligning my passion and purpose. And it's going to be hard as heck, but I'm going to do it anyways. If you can't answer both of those things, you will very well find yourself in another job feeling the exact same way you feel now. Because quite frankly, it's an inside job. You got to figure out what's bothering you and what you're doing now in order to ensure it doesn't happen elsewhere.
Tell me about the Babcock Method. So explain a little bit more about the methodology.
Yes. So again, this is what I created when I couldn't find it. And it is absolutely a methodology. It's not just me sort of throwing things at the wall. And picture this, because we're not on video. Think of it like a pyramid, okay? So the bottom, the base level of the pyramid is awareness. Okay, so this is exactly what I was just talking about in terms of don't quit your job. Above awareness on this pyramid is action. So I'll stop there for a second and say, everybody's doing it all wrong. Myself included, I should know. I was the queen of doing it wrong. I was so busy taking action. Working. My to-do list was my 5-year plan, right? Because I was just so busy. I was too busy to actually figure out what I really wanted to be doing or who I really was or what my passions were. I was so busy. So the best piece of advice I can give to anybody is stop. Stop doing so much and become much more aware of, again, not just I want to quit my job. What do you want instead? Who are you? What motivates you? What are your strengths and weaknesses? And not just professionally, but as a person. What brings you joy? What lights you up? What is the thing that you're doing that doesn't feel like work? And what isn't? so that once you start taking action, you're really taking aware action, which makes that act much more purposeful and much more efficient. So if the base level is awareness, and then you start to take action, not before, but after, then you move up one more rung in the pyramid and you're in choice. And when I'm talking about, you have confidence, that would be a big difference. So what I'm talking about when I say confidence is what's called the mastery mindset, which is not I win or I lose. That's very binary, right? Like it was good or it was bad. It's I win or I learn. So there's always an opportunity to iterate, change, affect things differently. And if you do something and you don't win, like let's say you apply for a job and you interview and you don't get the job, as opposed to just saying I'm never going to get a job, you go back to the awareness and you say, what worked in that interview? What didn't? What could I do differently? Be really aware of what it was. Then go back through the options. What could I do differently this time? Then that automatically allows you to build confidence much more quickly and allow you to feel much more top of the pyramid in choice, where you're co-creating your own life. Because you're aware, you're taking action, you're building confidence, and you know what you want, you know you can do it. So that is the Babcock method. Start with awareness, then take action. From the action, use the mastery mindset to build confidence, using that confidence and iterating, going back to awareness, and you need to back up. You can co-create your own life, professionally, personally, the whole thing. And by the way, life gets really lifey. So this isn't about co-creating your own life and you're sitting on the top of a mountain in nirvana. It's about how do you own the way you react to things and the way things happen so that you're always in a place where you never feel stuck or powerless, that you're in choice in your own life.
What do you find are the types of individuals, whether it's tenure or whether it's type of company or experience, but who typically gets the most value out of working with you and your team?
It's a great question, and it's something I wish I had a very concise answer to, because then it would make my life a lot easier. I'd know exactly who to market to, right? So what I'm finding, what I've found is it's a type. It's a type of a person who generally is more established in their career, although not always. I have some young clients and I have some retired clients. But it's people generally that feel like they've made it. They're almost always type A, very driven, very, perfectionist in the way they do things. They worked really hard and they climbed up the ladder and they got where they got to, and then they got there and they said, man, this is what I was working so hard for the whole time. But I don't even want to say that out loud. Who am I to not be grateful? Plus I have a mortgage and kids and responsibilities and a car. So I'll just keep doing this. But secretly, I feel kind of stuck. This isn't what I was envisioning. And the reason why I know that to be true is because for me, I'd had all those surgeries and I'd survived, and I was like, okay, cool. So it's not, I hate my job or my boss is horrible. It was just like, okay, this is it? And so that can be once somebody retires, where they've worked so hard until they get to retirement, and then they say, like, okay, now what? Who am I when I'm not working? Who am I when I'm not defined by my career? I find it a lot of times as people, late 30s to early 50s, sort of like, okay, I've worked so hard to get here. Nah. And then some younger, I had the experience when I was in my mid to late 20s where I was like, I'm not brand new in the world of working, but I just don't feel like it clicks. What I'm doing isn't really what I want to be doing. And most people aren't courageous enough at that time to be like, I want to examine this now. And so they end up linking up with me when they're about a decade later. But some are ready at that point. So that, I'd say, would be my common thread, is this idea of like, I've achieved things. And that, it's like the person who says they want to make $1 million, and they make $1 million and they go, it must have been $2 million I needed to make, because I still don't feel the way I thought I'd feel when I made $1 million. Does that make sense?
It does. It does make sense, Rebecca. And I know that we're just really just tip of the iceberg on this conversation. I know we can talk about it for hours in this case, because I know you have a lot to offer. But we're about out of time for today's show. Yeah. So what I do want to do, though, is I understand that you're offering, because I know everybody's listening to this right now and they feel just like I do. Like, they got questions. They're like, oh man, like we're just getting going, and they may want to have maybe a follow-up conversation with you. I know that you're you're making a special offer for our audience. So maybe if somebody's listening to this, first off, how do they connect with you? How do they learn more?
Yeah, so there's going to be two main ways, and let me just mention what that offer is, which is I'm offering everyone who's listening to this the opportunity to do a 90-minute complimentary coaching session with me where we see like where you are, where do you want to be, what's working, what isn't, and, you know, if I can help, great, I'll tell you how I can. I generally offer, so that's free. That's for 90 minutes, and I'm offering that to everybody for free. Right before I do that, I do like a 10, 15-minute quick chat just to see if you're looking for a cardiologist and I'm a, you know, eye doctor, that's not going to work out. So just to see if you're making an appointment at the right office. So the best way to find me and to do that is going to be, for those of you that are on social media, that's going to be RBC, in other words, Rebecca Babcock Coaching, RBC.coaching, that's on Instagram, or much easier, RebeccaBabcockCoaching.com.
Fantastic, and we'll put all that information in the show notes as well, so that our audience can just head on right on over by clicking on the link. So we'll definitely do that. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time listening to a Mission Matters episode or engaging with the platform, we're all about bringing on entrepreneurs and executives and having them share, you know, their mission, of course, like why they do what they do, like what gets them fired up to go out into the marketplace and make a difference, and also, you know, what their mission is and how we can all learn from it as well, and we can all become better and grow together. If that's the type of information or content that sounds interesting to you or exciting, then we welcome you. Hit that subscribe button, because we have many more mission-based individuals coming up on the line, and we don't want you to miss a thing. And Rebecca, really, it has been a pleasure. Thank you again for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.